Morning.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm just in, where am I? I'm there, Kirkwall. I'm here for the day, so what do you recommend I do?
If you want to stay in town here, there's the cathedral and the museum and the palaces, and there's the shopping street here.
Okay.
Is there anything else you're interested in outside of town?
Nothing too strenuous.
Okay.
Is there anything outside town? Or?
Do you have your own car or?
No, I'm on a bike. I'm just having a day off the cycling,
Okay. So, out in the west, you've got like the stone circles, which are here. And
yeah,
you've got
I'm going to go to
Skara Brae.
Stromness tomorrow, so
Yep.
I'm just going to stay around here today, I think.
Just stay in Kirkwall then.
Yeah.
So just head straight up this street here. You've got the centre of town.
Yeah.
And then you'll find all the main attractions up there.
Okay, brilliant. Can I take this one?
Yeah, take it with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, cheers. This is strange. I thought it was a bush shelter and it had just begun to rain ever so slightly. I thought, I'm going to go and stand in that bush shelter for a few minutes. But it's not a bush shelter. It is, according to the sticker on the outside, a designated cycle parking area. Which is, I'm not sure why people would want to leave their bikes here long term. Perhaps there's some attraction here that I can't see. Some archaeological dig perhaps, some great ancient monument that I should perhaps go off and visit, but I can't see anything and there's nothing on my map. Anyway, it does give me an opportunity to shelter from the rain and also the wind to catch up on where we are. Today is Friday morning and I'm currently en route to Stromness, having just spent 2 nights at the youth hostel in Kirkwall. Now, I came down on the ferry from Rackwick on Wednesday night, and it was choppy to say the very least. So not the most pleasant of ferry rides, but anyway, at least I was only going from Rackwick down to Kirkwall and not continuing down to Aberdeen. That will come next week. It was a very late night arrival in Kirkwall, and along with perhaps 4, 5, 6 other cyclists, we set off in the rain and the dark to find the hostel, which we all managed to do, and spent a first night there. It was always my intention to spend 2 nights there because I wanted to explore Kirkwall itself on Orkney. The rough guide didn't really sing the praises of Kirkwall, but I was impressed. I thought it was a pretty good place. A magnificent cathedral, 880 years old, and it kind of sits a bit out of place in the town of Kirkwall, the city of Kirkwall I suppose, because it's such a large thing compared to everything around it, but fascinating to wander around. A beautiful church, kind of hues of red in the stone, and next door was the ruined, crumbling palaces of the bishops and also of our old friend Earl Patrick Stewart, who was the cousin of James I. He was the person also responsible for building the castle up in Scala Brae in Shetland, but he didn't do it in a nice way. He basically just managed to piss off everybody he met, by the sounds of it. This was back in the late 15th century, early 16th century, and he got his comeuppance eventually by having his head chopped off by his cousin James I. So there you go, there's a moral for us all. Now, I'm standing in the distance in this designated parking area for bikes, and I can see just down across the fields the water of Scapa Flow, and to my right, I can't actually see it now because it's hidden behind a smaller hill, but a few minutes ago coming down the road I could definitely make out Hoy. Hoy is very distinct. It's one of the islands on the Orkneys, but it's very distinct in the fact that it's a mountain, and the rest of Orkney is pretty flat. Not pancake flat, up and down, but not like Shetland, and more like the kind of the rolling counties of England. but Hoy is different. It's a mountain. Now, I'm going to be in Stromness. I'm going to hopefully camp there for 3 nights, weather permitting. And the point of going to Stromness and camping there for 3 nights is that it's quite well located to go off and explore the other things. Hoy, the old man of Hoy, perhaps, if I can get round the corner to the other side of the mountain without going over the mountain. Scapa Flow and the history of the German fleet and everything that happened, and the prisoners of war and things that happened during the First World War, I think it was. And also the archaeological site at Skara Brae, which is north of Stromness on the west coast. So it's now Wednesday. It's not Wednesday. I'm losing track of my days. It's now Friday. I'll get to the campsite early afternoon, perhaps 1 o'clock, something like that. So I'll have this afternoon. I'll probably just hang around in Stromness and look at maps and wander around. And then I've got Saturday, Sunday and Monday to do a bit more exploring. And Monday night I've got to return to Kirkwall to get the ferry. It's basically the same ferry that I came on, but it's the final leg from Kirkwall back down to Aberdeen very late on Monday evening. So I'll be home on Tuesday. So that's the plan. Now I hope there are some more of these designated parking areas for bikes in the middle of nowhere, because apart from anything else, they make brilliant places to shelter from the wind, so you can actually record your podcast. So until the next designated parking area, that's all for now. Morning.
Good morning.
Oh,
How's it going?
oh, not too bad.
Good.
A bit windy on the bike, but
Just a tad, yes.
yeah.
But Orkney's always windy on a bike.
Well, I've just come from Shetland, so
Oh well.
it's a lot less windy
Yes,
than
yes.
Shetland.
Yes.
But
Yeah, Shetland's even more exposed than we are.
yeah, how big is the UNESCO site? What does it cover?
It covers this area here,
Yeah.
as Stennis there, and the buffer zone runs up this road, up, and comes right the way around and back down.
Right. Okay.
So
So
it covers this area.
it doesn't cover Skara Brae then? Or?
Yes, it does.
Ah. Okay.
It's a separate part of the World Heritage Site covering
Right.
Skara Brae.
Because I mean, presumably the whole of the islands could be covered.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make Orkney a World Heritage Site all on its own, I think.
Yeah.
It deserves it. There is just so much here.
And what can you tell me about the Ring of Brough?
Third largest stone circle in Britain.
Uh-huh.
The only two that are bigger than this are the outer ring at Avebury, which is massive,
Okay.
and the next one is only a metre wider than this, and that's Stanton Drew, between Bath and Bristol.
Ah, so where does Stonehenge sit in that list? Way down.
Way down, size-wise, way down, and age-wise, it's a lot younger than these.
Right. Okay.
The one down the road there, Standing Stones of Stennis, as far as we know, that's the oldest hinged stone circle anywhere.
Okay. So how old are these?
We can't get a firm date out of it. They've used a modern technique here modern in 2008, and that came in with a date not younger than 2,600 years.
Okay.
But that was dependent upon the last time that particular stone that was tested was exposed to light.
Right. Okay.
They took a reading from they excavated the ditch in one place, and they took a reading from the very, very bottom stone of the ditch, and that was the last time that stone saw daylight.
Right.
But it doesn't mean to say that stone wasn't in the bottom of the ditch,
Yeah.
kept spotlessly clean.
And have they been rearranged, rebuilt over the centuries?
They were in 1906. The Ministry of Works did some work here, and we think they put one or two back up, but not a huge amount, because they're only about that sort of depth.
Right.
They've just cut slots in the bedrock to drop the stones in,
Yeah.
so they've cut the slots exactly for each stone.
Okay. Because there's a story back at the Stones of Stennis on the plaque about the farmer wanting to get rid of them.
Yes. Yeah, no, he blew one up and knocked another one down.
Oh, right, yeah.
And broke a third standing stone away from it. Oh, just vandalism in the estate.
Yeah, well, I suppose it was his livelihood, wasn't it? So, so perhaps he had a different view of it.
Oh, he obviously did have a different
Yeah.
view of it, and but the Orcadians didn't take terribly kindly to it.
Yeah, yeah, I read that. Yeah, thank you. Have you got a leaflet or anything? Brilliant. Okay.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Just go and enjoy.
Yeah, I will do. Thank you. I really enjoyed that visit to the Ring of Brough, and the chap I was speaking to there, he was half Welsh. He was talking later about how the islands to the north of Scotland, Orkneys, Shetland, in his opinion, are treated very differently to those on the west of Scotland. Very candid conversation I had with him. Anyway, it wasn't too long after visiting the Ring of Brough that I was in Stromness, and the first impressions of Stromness were very, very good. After an initial bit which is quite modern, co-op, modern primary school, it soon funnels you into a flagged narrow street that continues for a long, long time up until you get to the end of the well, I suppose it's kind of a spit of land where the campsite is located here on the end of the island, and it's a beautiful place. Lots of interesting arty shops, bookshops, art galleries. There's clearly an artistic community here. I know there are connections with poets. I saw a few blue plaques, for example, and I'm looking forward to going back and exploring more in Stromness over the coming 3 days, because I'm here for 3 nights. I'm sitting in the tent. It's a fairly exposed campsite, to say the least. You've got the water on one side, you've got a golf course, and then the water on the other side, and it looks over the island of Hoy, and tomorrow, that's my destination, catching the ferry at 9:30 from Stromness. There's only one ferry there and one ferry back to Stromness every day, and my plan is to go down to the beach at Rackwick, I think it's called. Not sure whether I'll get to the Old Man of Hoy. I think that might be a bit too far, but the other place I'd like to visit on Hoy is the Scapa Flow Museum. 10 kilometres to Rackwick Beach and then back, that's 20 kilometres, 14 kilometres down to the Scapa Flow Museum and then back. So we're talking 48 kilometres plus time to spend wherever I go. And I've got to be back to take the ferry back to Stromness by 6:30 in the evening. So it will be a timed day tomorrow, and then Sunday, not sure, perhaps up to Skara Brae. The brewery is shut on Sunday. Perhaps I should wait until Monday, because I've got plenty of time before I have to get the ferry from Kirkwall on Monday. So I may on Sunday stick around in Stromness and investigate the museum, the poetry, the galleries. I'm sure they'll keep me occupied for at least the whole day. Oh, morning. I've cycled down from Linness, and we just started at the top of the road, so but yeah.
Are you having a coffee or would you like to go around the museum?
I'm gonna good. I wasn't expecting such a tough question. I'll look around the museum, I think, first.
Okay, I'll give you a floor plan. It's bigger than it looks.
No, right, okay.
Don't worry about it, you don't have to go around the whole thing.
Okay.
This is us here.
I recommend that you follow the arrows around.
Okay.
It takes you into the original pump house and boiler room. These are all original engines. These are what heated the oil up to pump it up into the tanks. Here we have a VR pod that shows you what Linus was like during the war.
Okay.
Here we have a video screen of 6 short films about the fleet and some more information about what they were up to. If you come back along yourself here, it takes you into a more personal area about the servicemen and women of the island and what they thought, their stories about it all. We have a little library area here, and if you go through the orange doors, that takes you to our main exhibition, which is just behind us here. That tells you about the Vanguard, the Royal Oak, and all the disasters that happened.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So what did this building used to be?
This is new.
Yeah.
The one that you're going to go into was the boiler room and pump station.
Right.
So the vessels used to come in at the pier here.
Okay.
The oil used to get transported up the pipes and into the tanks. We had 16 oil tanks. There you go, yeah.
So that's what it looked like?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
There was over 12,500 men here. Or men and women.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's... From what you see it today to what it used to be, it's absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing here now.
Yeah, and this was mainly... Because Scapa Flow was used in the First World War as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So did it look like... When is that picture taken
That's the
from?
second.
Okay.
But the first one, it would have looked similar to that as well.
Okay.
The oil depot here only got shut down in 1977.
Right,
So it was up and working up till then.
Okay, right, well, thank you.
Okay, there's information all the way around.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to know anything, just come and find either me or Gavin and we'll
Okay, brilliant.
answer questions if we can.
It reminds me of wandering around IKEA.
And that's do you know, yeah, there's so many people have said that. Oh, just follow it. Yeah, it's just like IKEA, yeah.
Right, okay, less furniture.
Yeah, no flat mats.
Thank you. I caught the passenger ferry from Stromness this morning over to the nearby island of Hoy, and I had 2 things in mind. One was to visit Rackwick beach, and the other was to come down the east coast to visit the Scapa Flow Museum. And I've done the second of those. I've just come out of the museum. It's a really interesting place. Far more to it than simply the scuttling of the German fleet in 1919, which is what I associate with Scapa Flow. It was a naval base throughout the First World War, throughout the Second World War, and then up until the end of the 1950s. And it's a very different place now. Obviously, most of what was here 100 years ago, 80 years ago, has been dismantled and taken away and left in ruins. But there's still bits and pieces dotted around the island, and you notice them as you're cycling down the sentry boxes, the military buildings, guarding what must have been a maze of military infrastructure back during the First and Second World Wars. The chap I spoke to at the end of the museum said that there were 100,000 military personnel on Orkney during the Second World War, which is astonishing. I think that's more than Britain currently has in its military, all 3 combined services. So it puts things into perspective. And now you look out over Scapa Flow and it's just a quiet stretch of water, an oil rig in the distance waiting to be dismantled, and a few ferries every now and again bringing the likes of me to here. And I'm just finishing my visit by paying a visit to the naval cemetery. Much of it is unoccupied, but it's your traditional military cemetery with lines of rectangular headstones and a few memorials. But over to my right there's one solitary headstone. I wonder why that's there on its own. I'm going to wander over and find out. Ah, okay, that's why. It's a German grave. It simply has the iron cross, and then underneath it says Johannes Thill, the 9th of December 1918. So after the end, just after the end of the First World War. And he's here all on his own in one corner of the graveyard, surrounded by green grass. I suppose he's found a home with his fellow soldiers, with his fellow Navy personnel, albeit the ones he was fighting, no doubt.
Ruth's just been in Yorkshire for her holidays. This one here.
Near Halifax.
Oh, I've been in Halifax in May actually.
Yeah.
I've got a son in Halifax.
What were you doing in Halifax?
They're visiting my son who lives there.
Ah,
Yeah.
I might know him.
It's quite a big place, isn't it? It's quite big. It is quite big. Yeah.
Where does he live in Halifax?
He's a constable, no, he's a CID. No,
Detective.
a detective, it's a police detective. Anyone can start a song.
Where are you at? Near Scapa Brae and that?
Yeah.
Really?
Not very
Yeah.
far.
He
not
doesn't
very
live in
far.
Scapa Brae, but he used to.
Yeah, right.
But they live outside there now.
Well, I don't commit crimes, so
He might look
He wouldn't know you then. He wouldn't know you then.
no.
probably a
good
thing that he doesn't
then.
Yeah, that's
Nice part of the world though.
Well, yeah.
Very beautiful down there.
Happy Valley.
Absolutely
We've
beautiful.
got Happy Valley
on
here.
TV. It's-
We've got Happy
Yeah,
Valley
I love it. I love
Yeah.
your part of the world actually.
Yeah.
And Ruth, you've just been down there. Yes. This girl here, she's been in Yorkshire for her holidays. Or part of it.
After my visit yesterday to the Scapa Flow Museum and the Naval Cemetery, made my way back towards the ferry landing on the northern bit of Hoy. But before I got there, I did make an effort to cycle the 9-10 kilometres over to Rackwick beach, which was quite spectacular with the high cliffs on either side. But the weather was turning when I got there, so I rapidly made a about turn and came back to the ferry terminal, and fortunately there's a nice little cafe there, and I met up with a few of the other people from the campsite who'd also been on the ferry in the morning. Now, last night, very, very windy in the tent. I don't think I've ever spent a windier night in that tent ever, but I survived, as did the tent. And this morning I've decided to take a day off the bike. I'm not going to go anywhere on two wheels. I'm going to stay on 2 feet. I'm going to stay in Stromness and just have a good wander around and explore all the nooks and crannies, starting with the museum. Have you lived here all your life?
Yes. 76 years.
So you know Mr.
Brown?
Mr.
Yes.
Brown?
Yes, I knew him. I used to have a pint with him all the time. Yeah, he came to stay there. I used to live out at the council houses at the other end of the town here.
Right.
And where I stayed was just at the road goes round like that, and he stayed at the one side and I stayed at the other side.
Yeah, right, okay.
Have you got one of them?
Oh, I haven't, no. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
There's a map inside.
Oh, right. Well, I was planning on going to the museum just here,
Yeah.
but that's really useful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll use that. Morning. Are you open?
Yes, we're over.
It's not quite 11, is it? So,
We're on the ball today. It makes up for days when we were low.
thank you.
No bother, so for one.
Yeah.
That's grand. So that'll be $7.50 then, please.
Earlier on, I'm staying at the campsite, and on your leaflet, I scanned the QR code.
Oh, right.
To download the
for
audio
for
files.
the Smartify items.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I could wander around and...
Yes.
And I think it's when you...
Match them up with the items that's on.
Is that also in the museum?
Yes.
Oh, right. Because I thought it was also in the street. But when I came
Oh, maybe it's... Yes, but it's a two different things. So is there a street
There's
one and a
two.
museum one?
The museum one should be free, that's inside the museum.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the Blue Plaque Trail.
Yes, that's the one
That's
I did.
the one you've got, right,
Have
sorry.
you tried it?
And I paid my £4.
Yeah.
And it sent me an email saying, yes, you've paid. But then I couldn't download or couldn't access the audio files.
Oh.
Do you know how that works?
Orkney has a long history with the Hudson's Bay Company, HBC, which played a vital role in the development of Stromness and its harbour. From the early 1700s, ships from the HBC began calling into Stromness to gather provisions and young seamen before sailing across the Atlantic. By the late 18th century, 3/4 of the men employed by the HBC came from Orkney, and in 1791...
That's one. I have a G-clay, but it's bigger than you. Well, here's the status. That's status.
Ah, right, okay. Where are you from originally?
Long Island, New York.
Yeah, I can hear the New York
I know,
twang in your
I know, people like me to get them coffee.
coffee.
So you're independently riding your cycle everywhere? That's how you're moving from point to point?
Yeah, I'm heading back home tomorrow.
Where's home?
Yorkshire.
All right.
So I've been up in Shetland for a week, and came down here about 4 or 5 days ago.
Well, I'm impressed because I always see a cyclist and riding on these roads with so little, with no bike lane and no shoulder. I think you take great risk. So I applaud your faith in drivers.
Yeah, you've got to choose your roads. There are some, certainly around here there are quieter roads. Yesterday, for example, I was on Hoy.
Yeah.
And basically.
That's a horse of a different animal, but
there's more bikes than cars, I think.
But the main road from here to Kirkwall, I think, it's crazy.
Yeah, but I was able to cut across from the south to the north.
Okay.
Because there are those two main roads, aren't there?
Yeah, there are.
It's taken me the best part of 4.5 hours to walk from one end of the high street to the other, and back again here in Stromness. And it's been a fascinating little wander. I've gone purposefully very, very slowly. Met some interesting people, had some interesting chats. You just heard one or two of them then. And very interesting town. Lots of history, lots of connections around the world, and a fascinating Victorian style museum where, everything is in cages, lots of stuffed animals, but fascinating nevertheless. Now I'm walking back to the campsite. I can see it in the distance, and I hesitate before saying this, but the wind has utterly disappeared. It is simply non-existent compared to last night when it was blowing a right gale to the point where I thought the tent might disappear into Scapa Flow and over the mountain of Hoy. It is just not to be felt at all. It's the stillest of still days, and let's hope it stays that way. I don't think it will, but let's hope it stays that way for my final day, for my final evening on Orkney, which is tonight, and my final day tomorrow, where I've booked in to go and visit Skara Brae, which is just on the west coast, about 10 kilometres north of where I am now. The downside, of course, of the wind having dropped is that the midges have descended, and I can feel my face being scratched and bitten by the little buggers. So back to the campsite to take preventative measures. It's my final morning on Orkney and the final morning of the whole trip, because tomorrow when I wake up I'll be in Aberdeen and back on the train heading back to Yorkshire now. It's going to be a very long day. Woke up this morning in the tent and it was kind of a bit windy and a bit wet, but I looked at the forecast and it said, oh, it's going to be nice all day, very little chance of rain. So far, several rain showers later, I'm not quite convinced that weather forecast is correct, but anyway, I've arrived at Skara Brae. It's quite cold. The forecast says 12 degrees and it said 12 degrees throughout the day, and you can feel it. It's decidedly nippier than it has been in previous days. And the plan today, well, I've just arrived at Skara Brae, more about that in a few moments I would imagine, and then I'm thinking of going all the way around the mainland, so heading north from here and then west, and finally coming back down into Kirkwall for the ferry. The ferry doesn't leave until 23:45, so basically I've got plenty of time today to do plenty of things. I would imagine I'll end up in Kirkwall, in a restaurant, in a bar, whiling away the evening, sipping a beer. Well, that's what I hope.
Would you like your receipt?
No, thank you. So how does it work?
I'm just about to tell you. So, here's your tickets.
Right.
You have entry to the Neolithic village and to Scale House as well.
Okay.
When you're ready, because you might want to visit the lavatory or indeed eat some cake, which is behind you, when you're ready, go through the door behind me and go round to the right. In the first room, there's a short film which explains about the discovery of the site, and then you go through into the museum. So there are artefacts and there's a lot of really good background information about the Neolithic. You'll pop out at the back of the gift shop, go outside, and then right in front of you you've got the replica house, which is an exact copy of what one of the houses would have been like when the village was occupied.
Okay.
So have a look through there. Then you've got a 5-minute timeline walk down to the site itself. When you get down there, there are 2 stewards on duty who are there to answer any questions you might have, and there are some interpretation boards as well. Then the path takes you over to Scale House and then brings you back here, so it's like 3 points of a triangle.
Okay,
you
brilliant.
You can go at any speed, but make sure you keep this because you'll have to show it in both places.
And what's in Scale House?
The gentleman who is responsible for most of the contents of the house was an antiquarian, so there's all sorts of interesting bits and pieces in there, including, for example, Captain Cook's tea set. There are some artefacts and some more information about the archaeological excavations of the site. If you're into that sort of thing, which I'm not, he's got a gun room. The dining room is still laid out how it used to be when the late Queen's mother used to come and visit, because she used to come and stay there. Yeah. It's also the oldest and most complete 17th century mansion in Orkney, so worth a look.
But no connection to Skara Brae, really?
Only in the sense that Skara Brae was discovered by the man who lived in the Scale House, and he was involved in the initial protection of the sites and making sure that the stone wasn't robbed out for building and that sort of thing.
Okay. Right, brilliant. Thank you.
Have a good visit.
Thank you.
In the winter of 1850, a wild storm lashed the coastline of Orkney as great gusts of wind roared along the shore at Skara Brae and ripped the grass from the high sand dune known as Skara Brae. What was revealed proved to be one of the most remarkable discoveries of our time. For beneath the dune lay the ruins of a 5,000-year-old village, a village older than the ancient pyramids of Egypt or the mighty monument of Stonehenge. For centuries upon centuries, this village had lain buried, hidden from the world. Now, at last, it will offer up its carefully kept secrets and reveal how life was once lived here, 3,000 years before the birth of Christ.
Well, I'm impressed at Skara Brae. That was really well done. The setting of the farming village from 3,100 years BC, so nearly 5,000 years ago, is very impressive. Right next to a crescent beach, a white beach. And on a nice day like today, the sun has now come out properly and the temperature is rising. It's really quite a spectacular thing to visit. The preservation is brilliant, to say it's 5,000 years old. And the way in which it's all arranged, where you go into a visitor centre to begin with and you learn about how it was discovered and you learn about the people who live there and how it was built and how it was managed before you actually go and see it, is a really, really clever way of understanding the attraction itself. Just like when you go to see Guernica in Spain, the big painting by Picasso, it's pretty similar to that. You learn all about it and then eventually you go and see the thing itself. Stonehenge, take note, or certainly, I think things might have improved now, but certainly when I visited Stonehenge 20 years ago, I was singularly unimpressed by the fact that all you did was turn up. There was a porter cabin there, I think, and then go and visit a bunch of old stones. This is how you do it. Skara Brae goes to the top of my must-visit list of Orkney, and probably Shetland as well. So when I get back to the bike, after visiting this little house here, where apparently the Queen Mother used to stay, I'm not going to hang around too long in there, I don't think, but after having taken a cursory tour of that house, I'm going to get back on the bike, and I think I'm going to continue north, although I may change my mind as I cycle. Still got plenty of time. It's probably only about 11, 12 o'clock as I speak.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We've now arrived in Aberdeen. It's been advised that all vehicle drivers and the passengers of the vehicles on the main car deck only may now proceed the vehicles. Access to the main car deck is via the silver level lift located at reception deck 5 side. Please use your hands up to find the
Station stop is Halifax. Mind the gap between the train and the platform edge.
I'm now within 2 kilometres of home. 24 hours of travelling since arriving back in Kirkwall yesterday. After leaving Skara Brae, I just headed around the coast. It was a really nice, albeit long, cycle, probably the longest of the 2 weeks that I was away. But the highlight of that was the Brough of Birsay, up in the top left-hand corner of the mainland. One challenge remains, to climb the steep hill back to my house. Shetland was pretty hilly, Orkney a little bit, but pretty much flat, far flatter than where I live. So although I may be within a couple of kilometres of my front door, the biggest challenge of this entire 2-week cycle has yet to come. This has been the Cycling Europe podcast, and thank you for listening. Thank you to Rob Ainsley for the music, as always. Who will be next on the podcast? I don't know. That's what I've got to sort out in the next few days. So thank you for listening, And if you want to get in contact, cyclingeurope.org/contact. If you'd like to support the podcast, cyclingeurope.org/support. So until the next time, thanks for listening and happy cycling. Did it? Oh. Thought I might have to get off and push there, but I didn't. All the way up. And now I really am home.